Happy Thanksgiving and welcome to FRCmedia News for Thursday, November 28th, 2019. I'm Keith Tebow. This week, a cultural district recently approved by the Fall River City Council gets the thumbs up from the Creative Arts Network. A massive holiday tree has been set up and decorated at Government Center. And the Lebanese community was recognized recently with a flag-raising ceremony near Government Center. We'll have those stories and others in just a moment, but first, let's check out the headlines of the week. We bring in Phil Devitt, the digital news editor at the Herald News. Phil, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you, Keith. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm fine. How are you?
Same to you. Thank you. Let's get right into the city pier here in Fall River. There's been discussions for quite some time about how to use that prime parcel of real estate on the waterfront, and it was announced this week that the Redevelopment Authority is going to be working with a wind industry company from the New Bedford area to look at how those two can work together. Fill us in.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about this in the newsroom a little while ago. I think that the city pier will end up being one of the big stories in Fall River in 2019. It's made quite a few headlines this year. You might remember just a few months ago it was the proposed site of a seasonal entertainment venue. And then the state stopped work there due to concerns over soil contamination. Then it's been quiet for a little while, but now we get word of an agreement between the city's redevelopment authority and Vineyard Wind, the offshore wind company, saying that it will pay the RDA $50,000 to study potential use of the pier for Vineyard Wind purposes. If the pier checks out as a location that Vineyard Wind likes, it could be used for a number of things: storage space, as a docking space for vessels shuttling technicians between offshore sites and the mainland. This wouldn't be the whole pier either. It would be roughly half of the pier, with other uses sort of up for discussion on the rest of the space. But what it would be is another prominent use of waterfront property along the Taunton River for offshore wind purposes. We have just across the way in Somerset, of course, you have Brayton Point,
right.
The former power plant site, which is now in the midst of a transformation to become a support hub for offshore wind too, Keith.
Yeah, and this is something that Mayor Jasiel Correia had talked about quite often in terms of getting Fall River in on this burgeoning industry, which has been had a foothold for quite some time in nearby New Bedford. Are moving along with a number of projects in terms of offshore wind and creating jobs there. And this is a way, I guess, for the city to also capitalize upon that with the construction of these turbines offshore in terms of southern Massachusetts. So it looks like it's going to be potentially a game breaker in terms of setting a tone here in the South Coast in the wind industry. And Fall River also looking to capitalize on that, Phil.
Yeah, you know, it remains to be seen how much of the waterfront here in the city and neighboring communities will eventually be transformed into offshore wind use. But you mentioned Mayor Jasiel Correia, who earlier this year spoke of a vision for, I believe he called it a wind corridor along the Taunton River. And, you know, with what's happening in Somerset and now what's potentially being proposed here in Fall River, you can see the beginnings of that starting to take shape.
We definitely do. We'll continue to follow that as it continues to progress. Also progressing this week, something that's been talked about quite a bit in local circles, specifically the gateway cities of Massachusetts. We haven't touched upon it that much, but this week Governor Baker has signed a $1.5 billion education bill, which cities like Fall River are looking to gain access to in terms of funding education here in Fall River, in terms of, I guess, leveling the playing field in terms of the allocation of educational resources. And this is something, Phil, that's been talked about on the state level for quite some time.
It has, and the Fall River education leaders that we spoke to about it this week seem to be exhaling about it, the fact that it's actually happening now. They're really excited about it. You know, and what it could mean for the city. We're not sure yet what the breakdown will be exactly. Of course, it's $1.5 billion for the state, but Superintendent Matt Malone tells us that he expects a large increase in funding to the district and other districts with large numbers of students who speak English as a second language, for instance, special needs students, students who live in poverty. And Mayor-elect Paul Coogan, of course, a school committee member and retired administrator here in the schools, sees a bunch of uses for this money. He was telling us this week, could possibly be used for expansion of pre-kindergarten,
right,
access to technology, strategies to improve test scores, that kind of thing. But as you mentioned, Keith, yes, it's been a long time coming, and it comes a few years after a commission warned Massachusetts that the state was underestimating the actual cost of education by about $1 billion every year. So this is a way to kind of close that gap.
Yeah, and even though more funding is always welcomed in cities and towns, I think the biggest challenge is going to be how to effectively use those funds. You mentioned some of the ideas of Mayor-elect Paul Coogan with expanding pre-K and other opportunities, but just having more money for the sake of more money doesn't necessarily mean that things will improve. So that's probably the biggest issue that'll be facing the Fall River Public Schools and others is how to use that money and how to make sure that in terms of Fall River, we talk a lot about the test scores and how that may translate into better test scores, but more educated students here in Fall River, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, the school district has some homework to do over the next few months. Districts throughout the state have to complete what's being called an accountability plan about how to use this potential additional funding by April. So over the next few months, we're going to see some people in top leadership positions here in the city trying to crunch those numbers and figure out where we could get the biggest bang for the buck.
And has there been talk, Phil, as to whether the city may see this in the next fiscal year? I know it's a 7-year package at $1.7 billion, but is there any indication on will it be allocated beginning fiscal 2021? Have we been given an indication of when the money will start flowing?
Well, it's still early to tell how a lot of this is going to shake out, but what the sense that we get from state leaders and the State House News Service, which we used in our own reporting yesterday, is that the full scale of this law likely won't be felt for several years. So I think the next few months are going to be focused on planning, and then I think after that the determination will come about how quickly that money will roll out.
Very good, and then that'll be something again we'll continue to follow. Finally, some celebrations in the city of Fall River. Our local firefighters and paramedics were honored this week at a ceremony in Worcester to provide recognition to the valor of some of our local fire officials. Going back to some events not only in the past year, actually almost a year ago, firefighters were recognized for their work at that fire that happened, I believe, on New Year's Day 2019. And it's good when our local public servants are celebrated in a way that celebrates their valor and their contributions to the city of Fall River.
Absolutely. This was by all accounts a moving day for obvious reasons, with firefighters and other emergency workers like paramedics from around the state, including Fall River, honored for doing what they do every day. Saving lives and putting themselves at risk to save others. Of course, they themselves wouldn't make a big deal out of it, so it's nice to see them sort of forced to, be put in the spotlight and get the recognition that they deserve. And you mentioned it was they were honored for their work at that fire at the Four Winds apartment complex on New Year's Day, but also for heroic efforts during a Route 24 tanker rollover late last year. As well. But, this is the kind of work that these folks do day in and day out. So if we could give them recognition every day, I think it wouldn't be enough.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Phil, what's coming up over the next few days at the paper?
So we have a feature story online and coming to print this weekend about a Fall River resident and a retired Westport High teacher who has spent the bulk of his retirement years trying to raise awareness for a very rare form of cancer that took the life of his wife, who was his co-teacher. So, it's a very sad story, but this man's determination to find a cure for this cancer, neuroendocrine cancer, is very admirable. So we'll have that story coming up, and hopefully, give some people some hope this holiday season as well.
All right, Phil, have a great rest of your holiday weekend. I don't know if Black Friday shopping in the offing for you, or Black Monday online. What are your plans?
I think I'm going into my house and I'm locking the door behind me.
There you go. Just take some well-earned rest and relaxation. All right, Phil, have a great week. We'll talk to you next time.
You too.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Delivery driver, New England Surgical, located at 17 Stafford Road, is looking to hire a full-time delivery driver, responsible for the delivery, setup, and pickup of durable medical equipment and supplies to nursing homes, hospitals, and residential homes. Job number 128-87457. General Manager, Crunch Fitness, located at 450 William S. Canning Boulevard, is looking for a full-time general manager with sales and operations experience, computer proficiency, and knowledge of budgets and cost control. Job number 128-78452. Director of Maintenance, Next Step Health, located at 1748 Highland Avenue, is looking for a full-time Director of Maintenance to oversee physical maintenance and operations of buildings, facilities, and building systems, as well as manage leases, contractors, and budgets. Job number 128-83657. Truesdale Health, located at 1030 President Avenue, is looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. Urgent Care Medical Director, job number 128-86611. Pediatrics Outpatient Associate, job number 128-86632. Burlington Coat Factory, located at 181 Mariano Bishop Boulevard, is also looking to fulfill the following full and part-time positions. Seasonal Cashier Associate, job number 128-84394. Loss Prevention Specialist, job number 128-84392. For more information on these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. The Fall River City Council recently approved a proposal to form a cultural district along the city's waterfront and downtown. Now, while the state has to give the final stamp of approval, Fall River Creative Arts Network co-founder Sandy Dennis is pleased with the council's support.
I think it's great. David and I have been working on that for the last 5 years. We couldn't be happier. They're coming down for their formal site visit December 20th, and actually the public meeting for that is that day at 2 o'clock at the Maritime Museum. So that's open to the public for them to come down and hear about it and ask questions to the Mass Cultural Council. So we couldn't be happier with their decision to move that along. You can do a cultural district in any part of a city. You can have as many cultural districts as you want as long as they're walkable. This is our first, hopefully, cultural district, and it's on the waterfront due to the number of assets in that particular area. But cultural districts do need to be walkable areas. They need to have enough art and cultural assets in it in order for them to consider it. Hopefully, we'll be on their January agenda for the final vote, and hopefully Fall River can celebrate yet another victory when it comes to art and culture.
Thanks to a donation from a local church and work done by the city's Department of Community Maintenance, the city's holiday tree is now on display outside Government Center. The Unitarian Church in Fall River made the donation because the massive fir tree no longer fit on its property on North Main Street.
The tree was planted on Arbor Day, which was April 22nd, 1990. It's about 3 feet tall when it was planted, and now it's about 35 feet tall. So it's been growing at about maybe a foot and a half a year ever since. In fact, my son was there, my daughter was there. Son's now 40, probably doesn't want me to tell you that, but he was about 10 at the time. It's just been part of the church for the last 30 years.
Now, why did you decide to donate now?
It's actually gotten a little bit too big for the property, It's encroaching on the building, the fence out front, and it's time. It's time to renew. Well, the whole thing is with the tree is it's been a long time there, but at this particular point we want to be able to not just take it down and destroy it, okay? We want to use the tree to put a little more life into the city, light up the Christmas season, and this way we get to share it with a lot of people.
As a reminder, the holiday tree lighting will take place December 7th, following the annual Children's Christmas Parade held on South Main Street. We'll have more FRC Media News after this.
Thank you for considering a homeless pet today. I hope you enjoy what you're about to see, and as always, please feel free to contact the shelter before coming down to make sure that the pets you're viewing are still available for adoption. We can be reached at 508-677-9154.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Richard. Richard is a 10-year-old Shih Tzu mix. He's a special little boy. He is blind and deaf. But that doesn't stop him from giving you lots of love. Richard would do best in a quiet home with no children. He needs someone who can go slow and give him some time to get used to everything. Richard may be blind and deaf, but he still has a good sniffer. So make sure you have lots of stinky treats. He'll thank you for them. So if you want to see him, come on down to Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Today we have Buckley. Buckley here, you can see he's a short hair. He's just under 4 years old at 3 years and 9 months old. So you can see he certainly loves his attention. He's got kind of a ginger personality about him. Buckley would make a good addition to a variety of different homes. He would do okay in a higher energy home, you know, a lot of kids, that kind of stuff, comings and goings, that sort of thing. And he would also be good in a calmer home, even if it's just a single person, likes to come home, watch a little TV at night. He'd definitely come over, be your buddy, that kind of stuff. As you can see, you'd probably get a lot of this. He's well adjusted, as I said, he's got a pretty mellow personality. So if you'd like to meet Buckley, you can come on down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Another flag-raising ceremony was held recently at Government Center, this time to honor Fall River's Lebanese community. Here's a look back.
Today we celebrate the Lebanese Independence Day here at Government Center. This ceremony and flag raising will be the first of its kind here in Fall River. While the Lebanese flag has flown across the street from City Hall for a number of years, we have never given individualized attention and appreciation to our Lebanese community as we are here today. So I am proud to join you all here today as acting mayor as we celebrate 76 years of your homeland's independence.
The Lebanese community in Fall River has been so strong and so proud, passing its traditions down to generation after generation, to see people in politics, to see people in a small business, to see people in music, education. You are truly so deeply part of the fabric of Fall River, and we're grateful for that. And it's an honor to be here and celebrating this with you all today. Thank you.
For me to be here today with all of my people as a lifelong resident of Fall River and a very, very intimate member of the St. Anthony of the Desert community of faith, I want to thank Pastor April from Calvary Presbyterian and Abuna James Root for their beautiful prayer, their words of wisdom, and the fact that they work so hard to keep our community of faith and our people so closely together. And it's an honor for me to represent my city today as we raise the flag as a Lebanese American citizen of the United States of America. This is true pride, and this is what America is all about. Recognizing all of its great people in this great nation. It's what makes us strong.
That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can watch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 o'clock and follow our news online at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week and a great rest of your Thanksgiving holiday. We'll see you next Thursday.